we start with rotational motion. Okay, basically rotational motion will deal with the motion of a rigid body. So whenever there is a rigid body is one whose geometric shape and size, it doesn't change. It is the same under any action of external force. So basically for a rigid body, what kind of the translation motion for a rigid body is the mass of the body is nothing but its inertia. It is our that is in our day-to-day life we said that whenever a body is at rest, it cannot start rotating around or about itself until and unless an external force acts on it. Okay, and that force is nothing but this inertia which is offered by the body to the rotational motion. So for certain sort of motions, we will find out the kinetic energy of a rotating body. So we have a body out here, a surface, and this is rotating around its axis. So for the entire body, we will distribute it into certain particles, like the masses we have m1, m2, and so as to mn, and then we will find the energies, the rotational energy of each and every particle, and then we'll add all of them, and then we'll be able to find the rotation motion of the entire body. Okay, so we consider here a body which is of mass m, rotating with angular velocity, and which is about an axis. So it's passing through the point O. We have a point O. It is rotating about the axis perpendicular to the plane of the paper. Okay, so the masses m1, m2, then let we divide this whole body into small amount of masses m1, m2, m3, m4, and so on up to mn, and the distances with the center O are as follows. It is r1, r2, rn, so as to r3, and up to rn. So the linear speeds are given by velocity, which is equals to r omega. So velocity of each particle while performing the rotational motion will be r1 into omega 1, where r1 will be the distance and omega is the angular velocity. So velocity is equals to r1 omega. So for first body, for the second it will be r2 omega, and so on it will be vn equals to rn omega. Similarly, the kinetic energy of these particles will be half mv square. For the first particle it will be E1, which is equals to half m1 v1 square. Second particle it will be m2 v2 square. So now we have here these, we can substitute the value of V in this energy. So we get E is equals to half m1 v1, we have r1 square omega square. So that is what we are getting, r1 square omega square. Then the total kinetic energy of the rotation, we will find the kinetic energy of the total rotation body. That will be the addition of that will be the sum of all the small masses, kinetic energies of all the mass, small amounts of masses. So E1, E2, so as to En. So we have E1 equals to half m1 r1 square omega square plus half m2 r2 square omega square, so as to have mn rn square omega square. So the rotation will become a part of it will sum this all up, so that becomes summation from I, that the number of particles runs from I1 to n. So m1 mi ri square into omega square. So basically in the translation motion we have the basic equation for the kinetic energy, that is half mv square. If we compare both the equations, that is this and this equation together, we find that it is analogous to each other, except that the total mass over here is given by this term, that is epsilon summation I 1 to n mi ri square. So basically it is the rotation motion is analogous to the mass capital M, and in the translation motion, so as the mass m represents the translation inertia of the body, this quantity will represent the rotation motion of the rotational inertia or the momentum of the inertia of the body. Okay, so that from that we get the rotation inertia I to be equals to mi ri square. That will be equals to the sum, which will be the sum of the product of the masses, product of the mass multiplied by the square of the perpendicular distances from the axis of rotation. That will be a rotational inertia. The radius of gyration. Now earlier we found the rotational motion inertia of a body. So according to that, we again consider a body which is moving around its own axis with the center O. It's a rigid body. So considering the body of mass m, which we have the body of mass m rotating about the axis from the point O. So by the definition of the momentum and of inertia, we have this formula I, which is equals to summation I the I runs from 1 to n, that is the number of particles, that will be the sum of the product of the mass multiplied by the square of the distance between them. So now if the whole mass of the body m of the body is at a radial distance k from the center O, suppose if the mass is at a radial distance k from the center O, then the moment of inertia remains the same about the axis of rotation. About this axis of rotation, the moment of inertia will be the same, and this k, distance k, is called as the radius of gyration. It is a major distance by which the mass of the rotating rigid body is distributed about the axis of rotation. That is, the mass is distributed along the axis of this rotation throughout this distance k. So that k is called as the radius of gyration. So we have the moment of inertia of that body is given by I, which is equal to the mass into the distance ri, that is the k square. We have taken the radius of gyration to be the k, so substituting we get k is equals to I under root I upon m. That is the radius of gyration. In CGS system we get the the unit for radius of gyration is in centimeters, whereas in SI system it is measured in meters. Now we'll find the torque acting on a rotating body. So we have again a rotating body. We consider this a rigid body of mass m, and which is moving around the axis of rotation, around the axis O, and with some angular acceleration. We can take that angular acceleration to be alpha. So about this O, so that the body will consist of small n particles m1, m2, m3, so as to mn, with the distances from the center O to be r1, r2, so as to rn. Those with the distance as the body rotates as the body rotates, each particle will perform the circular motion. So the angular acceleration of the particles around this body will be the same, will be constant, but the linear accelerations is different. So the particles suppose we take the particle of mass m1, the particles revolve with a linear acceleration a, and it is given by that linear acceleration a is given by r into angular acceleration, that is r is the distance between them. So the particle of mass m1, the linear acceleration will be a1 r1 alpha. For the particle of mass a2, the linear acceleration a2 r2 alpha, so as to an rn alpha. According to Newton's law, we have the force acting on the particles is given by mass into acceleration. So we have f is equals to m into a. For the first particle, that force will be m1 a1. So again we substitute a1 in that, we get m1 r1 alpha. So also similarly for the f2, similarly for fn, we have calculated the force acting on each of the body particle for the different force acting on each of the particle for the force acting on each of the masses of each of the particles in the entire system. Okay, so now for the torque we need the force and the for the torque we need the force and the position vector. So the torque is given by torque is equals to r into f, that is a sine theta, but for the particle is moving in a circular direction, the theta will be 90. So therefore sine of 90 gives you 1. So we are left with torque tau is equals to r into f. So that r into f, that torque can be of first particle, second, third particle, and so on for all of the particles. So we will find the torque for first, second, and so on up to n particles, and then we will add them. So we are adding it torque which is equal to torque of first, second, third, and so as to n particles. So we can calculate the torque acting on the entire rotating body. So that is the torque we are getting r1 f1. So for the first particle f1 we have calculated m1 r1 alpha, so that becomes r1 that becomes r1 square m1 alpha. For the torque 2, that becomes r2 square m2 alpha. For torque up to n particles, that will become rn square mn alpha. So we substitute these values, we get the torque is a summation of mi ri square alpha. This mi ri square term is nothing but the nothing but the rotational inertia. So the torque is nothing but the rotational inertia multiplied by the angular acceleration. That is the torque. The total torque acting on this body will be the total inertia, rotational inertia, multiplied by the angular acceleration that will act. We will solve the theorem of parallel axis. So we have two parallel axes along the same rigid body which are rotating, rigid rotating body. So what the theorem of parallel axis states is that the moment of inertia of a body about any axis is equal to the sum of the moment of inertia about parallel axis of its moment of inertia about parallel axis and product of the mass and the square of the distance between them. So basically it states that the moment of inertia of any body about an axis it is equals to the sum of its moment of inertia about the parallel axis and the product of this mass of its mass and the square of the distance between them. So basically we have two parallel lines out here, so we need to find the moment of inertia for the relation for the moment of inertia from the two lines. We have two centers out here, so we consider a rigid mass and rotating about an axis passing through the point O, passing through this point O, and then we have I naught, that is the moment of inertia for this axis, and then we take another parallel around the line C, and then along this line C, and then we have IC over here, that is the rotational inertia for along this axis, and then we have the distances, that is distance from O to C is h, distance from O to P, we take a particle P, a small element dm of the particle point P which is moving along the axis, along this axis as well as this. We will find the relation between both of them. Okay, so we have a slight construction out here. We will join P and C out at point D, and we have a distance of x over here. So the inertia about the axis O is given by the distance from the particle to the origin, that is OP square multiplied by its mass. So the integrating OP square dm, that distance is r, so we get r square dm. Next we have the inertia for this line C, so we have again the distance of the origin from the particle Cp square multiplied its mass dm, so that we have r naught dm. This distance is r naught, this distance is r. Okay, so in the diagram, in this triangle we apply the law of Pythagoras. So we have OP square. In the entire triangle we have OP square, which is equals to OD square plus PD square. So OD square is equals to OC square plus CD square. So we have OC square plus CD square, where OC is your H plus CD square plus PD square. So we apply A plus B the whole square formula. So H square is equals to 2HCD plus CD square plus PD square. Now here CD square plus PD square, that is CD square plus PD square is equals to CP square. Again the Pythagoras theorem. So we have CP square. So this is the final equation we are getting. Now substituting the values of each and every, we have OP square, which is equals to R square plus H square plus CP square, that is R naught square plus 2 into H into CD, which CD is your distance x. So again we multiply the equation by dm and integrate throughout on both the sides. So we have multiplied it and integrated it. So the integration of all this remains constant, only of this the 2h will come out, x will remain as it is. So the integration of x dm is equals to 0. So as the center of, so as all the particles about the center of mass is always 0. So the integration of x dm is equals to 0. Again we get the integration for dm is equals to the capital N, that is the mass of the body. The capital M will be the mass of the body. So again r square dm is equals to I naught, and r naught square dm is equals to IC, as we have found out here. So we substitute those values in the equation, and then we get the relation IC, I naught is equals to IC plus mh square, where I naught is the inertia, rotation inertia for the first axis, IC will be the rotation inertia for the second axis, and which will be equals to the plus the addition of mass into the distance between the distance between the two parallel axes. So the moment of inertia for any body about any axis is equals to the sum of its moment of inertia about parallel axis, that will be the sum of the moment of inertia about the parallel axis, that is the distance, that is the h, and the product of the mass and the square of the distance between them. The square of the distance, that is the h, product of the mass and square, and that is the sum of the distances, that is IC. We have the theorem of perpendicular axis. Let's read the theorem first. It states that the moment of inertia of any plane lamina about an axis perpendicular to its plane is equal to the sum of its moment of inertia about the two perpendicular axes. That is the moment of inertia about any one axis will be equal to the sum of the moment of inertia about the two perpendicular axes. So we can write Iz equals to Iy plus Ix, or as Iy equals to Iz plus Ix, or Ix equals to Iz plus Iy. So one of the moment of inertia for the one plane will be equals to the sum of the two perpendicular planes. So consider we again have a planar lamina like this, we have a body of mass m. So we have a body of mass m. Here we have OX and OY are the two mutually perpendicular axes on the plane, and then we have OZ, which will be the axis perpendicular to the plane through the point O. Okay, to the point O, that is your origin. Now we have here Ix, Iy and Iz with the moment of inertia about this Ox, Oy and Oz respectively. So what we need to prove is Iz is equals to Ix plus Iy. So we consider a small amount of dm at a point P, and the distance from the dm to point P O will be r, from this O will be r. So we have On equals to PL equals to x. So we have On equals to PL, which are both the distances will be equals to x. Also OL equals to PN will be equals to y. Also O to L and P to N will be equals to y. So this distance is y, and this OP distance is r. So now the moment of inertia about the z axis is given by nothing but distance of the particle from the to the origin multiply its mass. So that distance is OP square multiply its mass. We integrate it, we get r square dm. Next was along the x z axis, we will find it around the x axis also and for the y axis also. So for the x axis the distance is On. For the x axis the distance is Pn, and that becomes y square dm. And for the y axis the distance is Pl, that becomes x square dm. So that is your, so we integrate each and every time. So in this triangle POL, we have this triangle POL. So applying Pythagoras, we get r square is equals to x square plus y square. So multiplying dm and integrating both the sides, so we will multiply the mass on each and every side, and then we'll integrate. So we get r square dm is equals to x square dm plus pi square dm. So the values of x square, r square, y square we have found it. So that those are Iz, Ix and Iy. Putting them into line, we get this Iz is equals to Ix plus Iy. Hence the theorem for perpendicular axis is proved.